And now, reporting for Outside the Lines, Bob Lee.
This morning, a danger throughout all of sports, one that can quickly escalate from a nuisance to a health threat. Staph infections, and they occur in clusters such as a small group of surfers off the same Southern California beach, or, for example, 4 years ago, several St. Louis Rams players. Now, only 5 Rams players developed infections, but out of nearly 90 players and employees who were tested, 40% carry the basis of the infection. When we say infection, we mean a serious threat to a player's career and, in some cases, his life. Steve Delson on this silent danger.
The Milwaukee Bucks hired this company to try and kill the bacteria in their locker room. These treatments have also been done in Major League Baseball, as well as the NFL.
In football, you think about grueling injuries. You think about broken bones, dislocated bones, torn ligaments, things of that nature, things that involve physical contact or some form of physical action. But to get a staph infection, I was like, that was way out of left field.
Gilbert looking, slant, Braylon Edwards got it!
In September 2005, in his second NFL game, Braylon Edwards gave Cleveland Browns fans a glimpse of his vast potential.
Braylon Edwards gone! Touchdown!
But only a few weeks later, Edwards was hospitalized and ended up missing 2 games when a small bump on his elbow swelled mysteriously. How swollen did it get?
I was like, it doubled, maybe even tripled in size, just in this area right here, not the whole arm, just from about here to here, just the forearm. It just tripled and it was bad.
When doctors told Edwards he had a staph infection, he was surprised and also scared, for this was no ordinary staph infection. It was a dangerous strain called MRSA.
They told me what the worst case scenario could be if it gets out of control, amputation here, or possibly if you don't catch it in time, you could die from staph infection.
MRSA is short for methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. In the United States, each year, roughly 130,000 people are hospitalized with MRSA, and approximately 5,000 die from it. A highly contagious bacterial infection, it is resistant to many antibiotics and can swiftly become a blood or bone infection. It first appeared mostly in hospitals, but has now found its way into locker rooms, weight rooms, and training facilities.
Lycoming County coroner telling Newswatch 16 that a staph infection killed the young college football star.
In 2003, MRSA killed Ricky Linetti, a college football player in Pennsylvania, when his infection became a deadly pneumonia.
Christie with Wesley back, gives it up, Hill puts it down.
A number of current athletes, including Grant Hill and Junior Seau, have contracted MRSA after a surgery. So did former Washington Redskin Brandon Noble, whose infection was both painful and fast-moving.
It felt like somebody was lighting me on fire. And one of the doctors, when I was checked into the ER, said, if you waited even another 24 hours, we could potentially be talking about either, life or death or losing a leg.
When athletes get MRSA infections which don't involve surgery, these are called community-acquired. These infections have struck at all athletic levels, from high school to the pros, and in virtually every sport. But most reported cases have been in wrestling, and particularly football, where the players have open wounds and frequent skin-to-skin contact.
Football is a sport that people tend to get a lot of breaks in the skin, and what we know about staph and MRSA is that staph requires breaks in the skin to actually cause disease.
Jeff Hageman is an epidemiologist with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. An expert in sports-related MRSA cases, he says it is mostly spread by direct physical contact, but can also be spread by teammates sharing razors, soap, or towels.
It can come off our skin and onto items such as towels that are shared on the sidelines, and so if somebody has an infection, pick it up on a towel, the next person wipes their face with that same towel, that's a potential route of transmission as well.
In the NFL since 2003, the Redskins, Rams, and Browns have reported multiple cases of MRSA and staph infections. 5 different Browns have been stricken, including Brian Russell, who got 2 separate staph infections last season. Edwards says as these infections mounted, so did the concerns among the Browns players.
What's going on? You know, it's okay. It's one guy has it, okay. Two guys have it, well, you know, okay, 3, 4, 5. It's like, you know, what's really going on? Is there something more than meets the eye?
The Browns have declined to be interviewed for this story. Hageman, the MRSA expert, says it is still unclear why some teams get more infections than others. He cites an investigation he conducted in 2003 when the Rams and the Missouri State Health Department invited him to St. Louis after 8 MRSA infections occurred among 5 different Rams.
They had a brand new facility. It was very clean. And so again, it points out that really the main mode of transmission in these settings and other settings is through direct skin-to-skin contact.
But Hageman also found other key factors. He says the players shared towels during practices and games, and that players were skipping showers before using whirlpools. The Rams were also using a significant amount of antibiotics, which may have contributed to their MRSA outbreak.
So someone that has taken a lot of antibiotics over the course of their lifetime or over the last few years, they may be more at risk for getting drug-resistant infections. So on this team, we identified that they were using 10 times the amount of antibiotics than compared with the same age group in the general population.
Then look at the reverse by Gansey.
After he starred for West Virginia last year, Mike Gansey was seen as a possible first-round draft pick. But when he began feeling weak during his pre-draft workouts, he ended up signing with Miami as an undrafted free agent. Then Gansey began feeling sicker.
My knee was starting to get all kind of spots and, starting to form like pus and stuff around my whole knee.
Gansey went home to Cleveland, where he saw a doctor at the Cleveland Clinic.
Did they identify it as MRSA right away?
Yes, it was MRSA staff. He's like, you got to get in the hospital right away and get on some IVs. And I was like, what?
Gansey spent 2 weeks in the hospital, where his infection made him so ill, he says he could not get out of bed.
You can't physically move, and it feels like you got hit by a truck, and you don't even know it. It's unbelievable. Staph is something not to mess around with, and it's something you don't want.
After losing 30 pounds, he was released by the Heat just before training camp. Then Gansey got more bad news. He had MRSA again, this time in his ankle.
My whole ankle just blew up. It looked like a balloon, and it was on my left side of my right ankle. It was just like the zit pus. It was very, very hard to touch and around the infection. And right when I got there, they had to have an ankle doctor come in and kind of open it up and take the infection out.
Gansey is now working out in West Virginia, trying to make his way back to the NBA, where several prominent players have also had staph infections, including Paul Pierce and Drew Gooden.
Once you get it in there, it's kind of hard to get it out.
Andre Harris, the trainer for the Milwaukee Bucks, says his team has had no staph infections yet and is trying to keep it that way.
You want to try to be proactive about it and try to eliminate it before it even gets to be a problem.
In January, the Bucks had their training facility sprayed with a sterilizing agent designed to kill bacteria. But Harris says players themselves must do what they can to prevent MRSA.
Making sure you take care of your body, you clean yourself after you work out and work on the equipment. Avoid using razors of other people. Don't share razors. Always wash your hands every time you come in contact with one player or another. So you always try to maintain hygiene that way.
As for Mike Gansey and Braylon Edwards, who have felt the effects of MRSA, they now say they take nothing for granted.
I clean everything up and I bandage everything right away. I'm talking about if I get like the smallest thing, I'm right to the bathroom. I'm alcohol, peroxide, ointment, and then I'm a bandage. That way you never give anything a chance to get touched, get infected.
People have lost lives from this, have lost body parts. It's something that you don't want to mess around with, and if you see any little thing that looks suspicious, get it checked out.
Steve Delson reporting. Now, the president of the National Athletic Trainers Association is Chuck Kimmel, and we say good morning to him. Chuck, some pretty gruesome accounts there. We obviously high-profile athletes there. Talking just to people who are in rec leagues or high school or small colleges, athletes or coaches themselves, what should you look for here?
Well, good day, Bob. I think the key points to remember are that you shouldn't share things with teammates or friends. You should shower as soon as you're through with your activity. You should use antimicrobial wipes and liquids to kill the germs and make sure that the environment is as germ-free as possible.
Now, talking about towels, as we heard in that report, and again, we're putting up some pictures of exactly what things can look like. How common is it still, even at the higher levels of sports, to share towels?
Well, I think it's extremely common, and that may, in fact, be one of the most dangerous aspects here because, you know, one of the parts of being a teammate is to share. And if a teammate says, hey, hand me that towel, that's what you're going to do, and because that's a friend of yours. And if there's the least bit of blood on there and it comes in contact with an open wound on the athlete who just received the towel, then you're at risk.
Now, you're at Austin Peay, where you're the head athletic trainer, and you began this year dispensing disposable, essentially, towels to a football team during games. Yes.
When I was at Austin Peay in the fall, Gatorade was kind enough to give me hand towel-sized towels, and we never used the same towel on two athletes. We disposed of each one after each use, and in an effort to try to cut down the risk.
Now, we talked about how to prevent, but God forbid that it should strike. If you're an athlete, what on your body do you need to be conscious of to bring to someone's attention immediately?
Well, there should be no uncovered wounds, number one. And that's another problem with athletics. You know, sometimes blood on a uniform is a badge of honor. All wounds should be covered. Any type of swelling around a pimple-appearing lesion, most frequently MRSA is first misdiagnosed as a spider bite because it kind of looks like a spider bite. And in fact, while you're treating the spider bite, the MRSA is really going to work.
Serious stuff. Chuck Kimmel, I appreciate the words of caution this morning. Thanks a great deal.
Thank you.
Next up, the story of a